Hello, welcome to Post-Colonial Space. I'm Masood Raja, and today I'll not talk about anything academic or scholarly. This is one of those videos where I talk about life experiences and my ideas about how I have lived my life, but how we all should aspire to live our lives. Now, as you might be aware, if you've watched some of my videos and read some of my work, I have placed myself over a career as a public scholar, as someone who is connected to or has connected his work and his praxis to certain specific constituencies. And these usually tend to be powerless or silenced constituencies. So I just wanted to talk about as to what are the consequences of that and why we as humanities scholars ought to have a constituency outside of ourselves that we never speak for but speak with, right? And I've noticed that I started it as a sort of a performative act, right? Being good to others or helping others. In the beginning, 8th grade, 9th grade, it was sort of a show because I wanted to be the person who could be seen as someone who helps others. Maybe deep down there was an inkling of sincerity in it, but mostly it was about gaining recognition, being known for something. And I think that's how we all start to become who we are, because eventually you fill the gap, right? And you start doing that sincerely. So what I've learned over a lifetime of experiences is that there are many rewards to attaching yourself or connecting yourself to a cause outside of yourself, preferably a cause that enables or empowers those who otherwise might be silenced. And the biggest reward is that when you go to sleep at night, you sleep peacefully because you know that you have not intentionally harmed anyone and that you have not tried to harm someone else in order to gain something from those who have power. So it gives you that kind of a peace of mind. And then as you grow older, as you grow more experienced, you find more reflective and nuanced ways of intervening, aiding, and supporting different causes mobilized against any dominant group, may it be religious, political, administrative. But there are also long-term consequences of it. When you question power, may it be petty power, you also make a lot of enemies. Most of the times these enemies or so-called opponents, they don't work in a principled manner, right? And they attack you from your flanks. And you have to face that and sail through it, right? But, I was just sitting here thinking about my life and how I've lived it and whatever is left of it, how I plan to live it. And one thing is very clear to me, that I will not live it any other way, right? I've never tried to align myself with powerful constituencies. I've been part of them because that wasn't satisfying enough, living a life for myself, rising high wherever in any given career. I found out that I do better. I thrive in situations where I can help others or where I can speak in solidarity with others. And then when I became a scholar of humanities, it became a no-brainer because, what are you going to do? Just talk about esoteric texts and how brilliant they are? Or are you going to connect your work to issues of equity, justice, care, compassion? And I would say that in redirecting my energies from a careerist approach, from a purely cynical approach to advancing my own self, to something that is connected to the world outside, some of my earlier colleagues in the profession at my first job were a huge influence. I have done so many lectures on Mark Brocker's work. And I think his work, as I read it more carefully, even if I don't agree with it fully, right? What it connected me to was that a humanistic education ought to do more than just deliver content. It must also work towards enabling our students to create compassionate, larger selves. And that I find to be a really rewarding task of being a humanities professor. Now think of it this way, if you're watching it, from any of the former colonies, the educational system that was introduced in the colonies relied on rote memory, didn't encourage critical thinking, internalized the logic of the superiority of Western knowledges and Western literature, right? So many of post-colonial nation states, especially their educated elite, are still trapped within those structures, right? And so people will come and teach a course on literature or post-colonialism, and all they are teaching is, here are the 10 points about post-colonial studies, here are 10 answers to this question, memorize these and reproduce them. So in a way, then, they are still doing the job of their colonizers as teachers and professors. I think a better approach would be to give the students the tools to think things through, to give them a chance to read and ask questions and have discussions so that they develop the critical faculties to think the world, right? Think about the text. And that is what I have tried to do in my classes on YouTube through my live streams, is to share whatever I know, but to share it in a way where it is didactic, but it's not top down, where it comes across as my ideas that I'm sharing with you and then welcoming your responses. So as a teacher and professor, I strongly believe in that. So I thought I should share these thoughts with you because I've reached a certain age where you reflect on what you've done in your life and you still have a little bit of life left. So you try to think about what to do next. And I think my next projects or steps would be more in touch with the real world, more in touch with the people who live in this world, what happens to them, and the questions of equity, right? Why is it that a small segment of the world population lives lives that are like dreams, but majority of us suffer through it? But also the questions of how is it that we ourselves make each other's lives harder, right? By being petty, by being vindictive, right? So the lesson that I've learned is that, yeah, we can change this world, one person at a time, right? Not in huge transformations, but in small incremental changes. And if we are teachers or scholars, if we put our energies behind creating courses, creating dialogues, creating written works that work towards that are connected to some cause, that are connected to bringing the world together, right? Understanding it better, but also developing instances where human dignity is increased, where we respect each other, that incremental change can be passed on to the next and the next and the next generation of students, scholars, colleagues, friends. But the consequences of doing radical work, even though it's human work, but it is considered radical work, is that a lot of people who are entrenched in the status quo, have a privileged location in it, have a privileged position in it, would not only not support you, they will also try to hinder you. They will also try to destroy you. And you will have to face that. Those are the consequences of doing public scholarship or placing yourself within the given debates of any society and taking sides with those whom you deem are oppressed or are silenced, right? That's the cost of it. But I think it's a cost that we should be willing to pay if we have a privileged location in the academy, if we have a privileged location in life, right? What's the point of just living in that privilege and not questioning it? But also, what's the point of not standing for something larger than ourselves, something that enables more people, something that empowers more people? And that is what I have made into the philosophy and praxis of my life. I'm of course, who am I? It's not like I say things and people do it. But I thought I should share these thoughts with you because so many of you who watch these videos or come to my live streams are young, you're starting your careers, you might be shaping up what you are going to be or what you would like to accomplish. And most of the times, the training that is given to us in institutions is about building a career, about watching our own self-interest, because that's how the world works. But I think if you also inculcate the habit of doing more than that, of taking up a cause, or looking around to see who do you work in solidarity with, who can you work in solidarity with, and then working towards peace, towards environment, towards equality, towards social justice. All of these causes then will place you in touch with people who can enable you, who can enrich you in the process, and whom you can also help in so many different ways. And that would be a life worth living. That would be a life that would mean more to you at the end or towards the end than just having lived your life and having had material success. It probably would be a more challenging life. But I can promise you that if you start like that, it could also be the most rewarding lived experience you can have. So these are some of my thoughts, tentative as they are, about how I have lived my life, how I try to live my life as a scholar, and how I encourage my students or those around me to live their lives or live even better lives, but connect your lives to the care and good of others, right? To someone besides you, someone other than you, and you will find life to be exciting and highly rewarding. So these are some of my thoughts. I hope I didn't bore you to death. Let me know what you think, what your experiences have been. Let me know what inspires you in the comments. And of course, let me know if I can do anything else to make myself better, right? If you have any good suggestions, I'll be very happy to receive them. That's all. Thank you all so much. I hope you're staying safe and taking care of each other. Please continue to do so. I will now see you next time. Until then, as always, peace and love.